Thanks for coming over. This is Amodeus, and today's Dungeon Hunter champion is trying to solve the question, is Steel Widow 11 better to farm now than Steel Widow 10? So everybody's had a chance to play around with Update 4, and I've gotten an amazing amount of feedback from the community about the good, the bad, and the ugly of Update 4. And keep me in the loop as you find all this new craziness in your testing, and I, of course, every time I learn something new, I'm going to share it with you. But of those things that I've learned in the last, 24 hours or whatever, is that for me it is so much easier to farm Steel Widow 11 than Steel Widow 10. And in my mind that makes a lot of sense, other than I'm just talking here. It makes a lot of sense because the developer said they wanted Steel Widow 10 to be this iconic achievement in your Dungeon Hunter career, right? I think that makes it important that it's so much more difficult than it used to be, right? It's really hard to get a sense of epicness from a 40-second speed run, So what I think that really does is it kind of sets a tone. So if you're a new player and you're coming in fresh, they're really setting expectations from the jump. Now, for the rest of us, we have to accept this new landscape has changed and move on or get out. Now, part of this accepting the Steel Widow 10, for me, just isn't a farming raid dungeon anymore. It's a rite of passage that you have to complete before you can be welcomed into the mid-game and the Ascended Realms, where farming really begins. Or some such nonsense. Because what I see as one of the key obstacles of overcoming the newly buffed Steel Widow 10 is not the difficulty of it, it's the time. As it stands, you need more than just Zinni and a bunch of DPS on your team. I mean, even if you're an OGD player, sorry for you, before the new buff cleanses land on Steel Widow 10, that means you just can't depend on Zinni at a solo strip anymore. So you need a wider diversity of champions like Vamal and Rona, Zircon, that have the support roles on your team and can be built to do damage. This also means building units much more hybrid, so that you have to have a wider selection of gear available. And ultimately what that means is that you're doing less damage and it's taking longer to do the raid. Now, the whole reason I didn't farm the Ascended raids before is because they took too long compared to Steel Widow 10. However, Steel Widow 10 and Steel Widow 11 take about the same amount of time after Update 4, but Steel Widow 11 offers better chances at 6-star gear, then in my personal opinion, Steel Widow 11 is where you want to farm, because it's the exact same amount of time, the same effort, and as you can see on the screen behind you, you can build free-to-play teams that clear it out. I just don't think right now, and trust me, I'm going to keep working on it, but right now I don't think that we're going to be able to get to 40-second clear times on Steel Widow 10 like we used to have. So I think being at a minute to a minute and 30 for a raid is just unfortunately what we're going to have to be at for a while until we can really get some testing in on some of this other gear. Now, to illustrate the point, what you've been watching in the background is several Steel Widow 11 teams, and they're now going to get only faster as I get my hands on that coveted 6-star gear. But I'll be doing champion videos for post Update 4 this week too, so that we can look at some of those things, because Spearman got a nerf. Or, no, they didn't. They got a buff. Spearman got a buff, so we'll see how that works out for them. But for now, let me know what you think. Is Steel Widow 11 the new farming raid dungeon, or are you keeping it Steel Widow 10? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks again for coming over. As always, have a great day.